Bring on Bill King from Nashville Sports Radio, hosting 6 to 9. He is the king of college football talk and the king of college football leagues. Finally got underway on Saturday, so I'm sure, Bill, that must have made you feel good to be able to watch some SEC football finally.
Felt kind of whole, Jimmy. Guys, felt real. Felt like, okay, I like the other games, but now we're on track.
Certainly was. And there were some very interesting games. Maybe the most interesting was Mississippi State's shredding of LSU's defense. And I want to ask you this. You know, we know Arkansas faces Mississippi State this Saturday. But when you look back at this last weekend with the Bulldogs and the Tigers, did it tell you more about Mississippi State, or did it say more about the state of LSU right now?
Oh, boy, that's a tough one to juxtapose because LSU's missing a ton. Not only missing a ton, but missing the best cover corner in football, in college football, and probably one of the best. Put him in the next league, he may be one of the best up there too already. But so that's tough. But here's what, watching that game, I did not see happening. I thought transitioning to the air raid would take some time to sync up and to get in rhythm. And guys, they were in rhythm on the first drive. I mean, it looked like they'd been running that system for the last 100 years. Emory Bellard, the inventor of the wishbone, once the Mississippi State head coach, it looked like they'd been running it since Emory Bellard, right? I mean, absolutely amazing. KJ Costello was good, and it showed that LSU, at least in the moment, is very pedestrian with Miles Brennan at quarterback, too.
I also think it showed how smart Kylan Hill was to return this year and show that he can be a dangerous receiver out of the backfield. And I went back and looked here, and he had 158 yards receiving. Bill, 155 of those was after the catch. 5 missed tackles on those receptions for him. That's huge. So, I mean, you're looking at, they got a bunch of good wide receivers, but you just don't know where they're going to go with the ball, and they make guys miss. That stood out to me, and I think that's a big problem for Arkansas's, not secondary necessarily, but the linebackers on Saturday.
Well, here's the other thing about the air raid. Leach is used to playing in games where he's got a quarterback and he's got a receiving core, and he's got all those plays. But he's used to get whipped, particularly at the tackle position. And they've got all those little check downs. So LSU was having success beating the man in front of them to get to the quarterback. But it's so frustrating because the ball comes, if need be, the ball comes out so fast, you don't get home. And it just drives you crazy. And I would say that LSU, probably like me, did not respect Mississippi State's ability to do that. I didn't think they could, not to that level.
We'll go to the Arkansas-Georgia game briefly here, and the takeaway that a lot of people around here have from that game is that they didn't feel that Arkansas was pushed around the way that they were for the past 2 years, that at least for a good chunk of that game that they were able to maintain a physical nature. Now, they didn't move the Georgia defensive line very much, but they didn't give a lot of ground either. So people were at least pleased with the physicality of Arkansas. And then you got to keep in mind here, they were beaten by a third-string quarterback and still felt good, the fans do, about a 27-point loss.
Well, yeah, it looked like a fairer fight. I agree. Now, what I couldn't get over watching that game is how the heck Dwan Mathis won that job. Because
yeah.
guys, I don't know what he did, but if that's the result of what he accomplished in practice to get the one slot, God help him, because he was terrible. I mean, he wasn't a JV quarterback, and it doesn't look like it's there. Now, Stetson Bennett's a kid, a former walk-on, went JUCO down to Mississippi to get some reps, came back. Really good story there. Mainly a scout team quarterback for them, and they just got Daniels cleared here recently, too. So they'll probably be okay there. But, boy, that was the one that had my mouth agape, man. I couldn't figure that out.
Speaking to Bill King here on Halftime. Bill, let's keep it with Georgia just for a second. We've had this comparison that we're trying to draw. Who is the best team in the SEC East? Do you think it still could potentially be Georgia, or the way Florida looked against Ole Miss this weekend? Florida put on a show against Ole Miss, putting up 55. I believe it was 55-31 was the final score without having to look. Florida looked really good. Georgia's defense looked really good, but the offense was suspect. Who do you think the better team in the SEC East is right now, Florida or Georgia?
Well, Yeah, the one game you'd probably go with Florida for sure. But look, got to remember last year Georgia lost to South Carolina and clearly pretty much dominated the Florida game. So the reset theory, we always have to be careful. Each week is brand new. There may be some momentum, good or bad, based on the previous week, but always keep in mind that the next Saturday can be a reset. And I think Georgia is in Florida's head a little bit too when they play that game. So it wouldn't surprise me to see Georgia win it. But yes, based on Saturday, when you're looking at Trask and maybe the best individual receiver, tight end, Kyle Pitts in college football, I don't know who else I would take ahead of him right now. He's a nightmare. He's 6'6", 240. He runs away from you or bodies you up. There's nothing you can do about it. So they got a lot going on right now. Now, defensively, they gave up 400-plus yards. They got some issues in the pass defense, and I don't think they're as good as they're used to being up front either defensively.
Let's talk a little bit about this Arkansas-Mississippi State matchup coming up this Saturday. Arkansas's offense struggled mightily, and maybe with the exception of maybe the first 2 or 3 drives against Georgia, but for the majority of that game, struggled to even move the ball. You can credit that more towards maybe the inept offense, or I think a lot of our listeners just credit how strong that Georgia defense truly is. Do you think this coming Saturday that Arkansas can get it moving against a Mississippi State defense?
I do. Yes, I do. Not nearly the personnel that you just saw in Georgia. Now, it's going to take points because they're going to get points in that air raid. That air raid is just all in sync right now. But yes, I think Arkansas, I think you folks are going to see an offense kind of break out a little bit, hopefully. Now, I don't think it's going to be an explosion of some sort, but more success, absolutely. Absolutely.
If you're on the sideline, though, with Barry Odom and that Arkansas defense, how would you go about I mean, there's no way that you're going to be able to stop this air raid offense of Mississippi State, but you can try to hope to contain it, bring it in, bend, don't break. We've had a lot of listeners say that today. How would you go about trying to slow down this Mississippi State offense? Is it going to be putting 2 safeties over the top, Arkansas winning time of possession? Like, which route would you go if you're Barry Odom?
Well, if you could hold the ball, I mean, offensively that would absolutely help. Let me give you a little tidbit on Leach. And I've known Mike. He worked on my channel there at SiriusXM for a few years while I was sitting out. So I've had a lot of conversations with him. He literally does not believe there's any coverages on defense. We disregard anything you got. He's not kidding either. I mean, he will tell you that. And you're sitting there trying to, that brain of his works differently, and it's very highly intelligent brain. I would keep things mixed up. I try to keep people under you. I would limit. They're going to get their touches. They're going to get their possessions. Limit the damage and try and live for the next down. I think that's your best bet against that team. Look, they're not even trying to run the ball, guys. I mean, seriously. I mean, what if they decide they're going to become balanced? Which he doesn't care about that either. He's not the kind of guy that says we've got to have 250 rushing, 250 passing. He'd rather have 450 passing and 28 rushing. He doesn't care. But that's what I would do.
That's a fascinating idea that you talk about with Leach, that he says there are no, defensive alignments going up against him. And I just try to think about this a little in what I experienced through baseball, in which a pitching coach will tell his pitcher, don't let the batter take away your strengths. You don't pitch to his weaknesses, you pitch to your strengths. And
right.
It sort of sounds like he's thinking the same thing for his offensive philosophy. Like a defense will try to take away something you're trying to do. He's not even paying attention to that. He's focused on his team's strength, which is just flipping the ball around.
Correct. They don't worry about it. There may be a sack. There may be a turnover. There were several turnovers. Guy from right here in the borough, former 5-star safety, had a sack and 2 turnovers. One was a swat and then a scoop, and they don't. Okay, there's a turnover. Here's the other thing. Think about this guy. I love this. 7 minutes to go. Mississippi State gets the ball back up 3, right? 34-31, fourth quarter. And we know pretty much not just the SEC rule, but the Big Ten rule. You're going to run the ball and you're going to run a clock, right? And if you have to, you punt. They don't change a bleeping thing. They chuck it every play and score and make it 10. How often do you see that? That never even thinking about the clock.
You're right about that.
Good point. Yeah.
There's a high school in Little Rock that feels the same way. They're called Pulaski Academy, and I think Kevin.
No, we
Kelly
played
and Mike Leach have some
Ravenwood right
similarities.
here. One of my neighbors, Ravenwood, has played them the last 2 years. Lost to them just the other week, and then last year they came here and it was like 70-61. I've seen them, man.
It's infuriating to watch. Oh my God.
Yep.
Yeah, well, you get SmackDown going off on Pulaski Academy, and you will. Bill, we'll leave it there. Enjoy the games this weekend. Have fun.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it, guys.
Thanks, Bill.
Bill King, Nashville Sports Radio. We'll have him next Wednesday, 12:30. Again, to those listening in Baxter County, if you have delayed your medical care because of the COVID pandemic, don't do that anymore. Baxter Regional Medical Center is ready and has been for a while now to take care of your family safely. Safe surgeries, safe procedures, safely seeing patients across all their service lines. We're talking about safe scheduling, screeners, safe check-in. The lobbies are clean, safe hands always being washed. Their exam rooms as safe as it can be. Safe telehealth visits if that's the direction you want to go to. To learn more about the extra precautions that Baxter Regional has taken to keep you safe, go to baxterregional.org. Don't delay your care any longer. Baxter Regional's got you covered. That's baxterregional.org for more information. And we come back with a cherry on the top, and it's Change My Mind right after this.